welcome back to the Pocket Gamer podcast with your hosts, me, Brian Baglow, and joining me for what seems like the first time across the whole of Mad March, the wonderful Peggy and Salz. Hello, Peggy. It's lovely to see you again.
It
How
is
mad is your
mad,
March?
Brian. I have missed you. You've been working, of course, and doing your thing, and I've been prepping for Mal. Well, I didn't miss GDC. I decided that they're too close together. Pick one. I thought the whole team is going to GDC, so I'll be the lone representative of Pocket Gamer at Mal. And yeah, excited to go there and literally leaving this weekend. So yeah, it's going to be a manic week next week, but great and gearing up for so much more at Pocket Gamer. It's just going to be such a busy but exciting year.
Exactly so. It seems as though 2023 just set the standard and we're determined to beat it with the
Yes.
number of events, the number of things that we're going to. I've been out and about, albeit not quite as wide ranging. I've been running a whole series of
Mhm.
workshops across Scotland because I'm building a national
Wow.
strategy for video games. Um, so yeah, I've seen parts of the country that I have not seen in a long, long time, and so many people. We've had developers, publishers, educators, students,
Wow.
policymakers. It's been fantastic. So I won't lie, getting back into the podcast studio with you, I've missed you. I've missed you too.
Our guest is about educating because I met her on one of my trips last year, and we've been working at it. Busy woman, making it work. And we got her today because she fascinated me with her approach to automation. Because right now, where we are, it's all about diversify your channels, get the most out of everything, and it is a journey. It's a lot to learn. So we have a guide on this journey. I'd say we have like kind of a Sherpa, right? She's going to tell us what she's done, how she's done it, but more importantly, build up some confidence in our audience that they can do it too. So it's a lot of positivity from, I would say, I have to do it because I am a pun person, from a positively delightful guest. We have Clary Xiaodan. She is head of UA and monetization at Elia Games. She is passionate about games, obviously, as is her entire studio, but she's also very into empowering professionals in studios to do more with automation. In particular, one thing I haven't heard a lot about, no code automation systems. I love that because then you don't have to be a coder. And I'm obviously not Brian. So I guess we can sit back and learn a lot with this one.
Clary, welcome on board. We're really excited to have you here. So before we dive in and learn more about what you have to share, can we learn a little bit more about you and your backstory? Because those two hats, UA and Admon, may not sit quite comfortably. So can you tell our lovely listeners a little bit more about yourself and how you got here?
Definitely. So happy to be here today. All right. And then, hello, everyone. I'm Clary. And about my story, I actually started this journey in gaming while being both. From the get go, I was UA manager and monetization manager at the
Hmm.
same time, like, which is something rather less common in the industry. But however, it makes total sense in my mind because when you try and start to learn about the gaming advertisement industry, you do need to understand the logic behind how waterfall, how user acquisition campaigns all work together, and how do you benchmark and how do you analyze the performance. So, a few years back, when I was fresh out of school, I just dived nose deep into both worlds at the same time. And now it's been a few years, and finally, I find myself in this position of head of user acquisition and monetization at
Mhm.
Elia Games.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. So, how do you balance those? Because it sounds as though you've got both of them working at the same time. So, do
Yeah.
you have any tips for the listeners on how to do something as those two very different approaches?
Yeah, definitely. I guess that's going to be a cliche, but time management.
Hmm.
So, really, we try to allocate the time that's needed for UA and the time that's needed for monetization, of course. And as what we understand from now on, until now, it's like UA requires more like day to day management all
Hmm.
the time. However, monetization is something that can be done on a weekly basis, on a bi-weekly basis. So in our daily workflow, we just try to really allocate time and dive deep into UA and the monetization in their own time. So that is also where our automation systems comes into play, because sometimes we're humans, we're prone to errors, we're prone to forgetting one thing or another. However,
Hmm.
with our systems in hand, we get notification for when things need to be checked. And that's really helpful for us managing both worlds at the same time.
That makes a huge amount of sense. And I guess, yeah, you're absolutely correct. But one of the things that I'm really keen to find out more about is this notion of being the augmented marketer. The automation is one of the ways in which you're not only managing your time but bringing these two different tasks together.
Mhm.
So, how do you use automation, and how is it changing not only what you do but continuing to change what you do?
How do we use automation? There are two major things that we use as our no-code automation, which is, first of all, Google Sheets. Wow, magic.
Hmm.
Everybody knows this one. And then the second one, Notion. And then how do these play together? Um, Basically, I think Google Sheet as a tool is like Excel. We know it's
Hmm.
actually unmatched in terms for analytics ability. And however, um, there is something that is extremely powerful about it, is that it is not only an analytics tool, not only where you can build dashboard, but also where you can input. How we do this is like every changes we make on our user acquisition and
Hmm.
monetization campaigns are actually inputs in Google Sheets, which later on is actually, how can I say, used to match
Hmm.
between the performance of the campaigns. And from what I understand, this is something rarely ever done in the industry. A lot of companies, they look at dashboards for analytics. However, they don't have any ways to match that to the action that's being taken on either the monetization or the user acquisition side. So this is something that really it was kind of a stroke of genius. At some point, we just figured out how we can actually realize that inside one single tool that everybody has known for decades. And
Hmm.
that's really, really quite interesting. I would like to dive deeper later on. And what's great about Notion is like, in some ways, it is probably the best organization tool where you can have everything in one place in different formats, like Notion database. Compared paired with Notion's notification feature actually makes it so that we really are on top of everything. Essentially, we don't miss any alerts, we don't miss any details, and how we bridge Google Sheet and Notion together. This is yet another interesting little trick that we
Hmm.
did, um, which I would like to share.
This is
Uh,
fascinating, I have to say, because of a couple things, Brian. Number one, it's
Hmm.
it's 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 by de facto, it's democratized because everyone can use it. And so we're having this discussion about how everyone needs to get involved in the data, own the data, understand the data. It's a great way to do this. It's probably, I would imagine, Clary, more for maybe like a certain
mhm.
genre or a kind of studio, because I can't see them, like rolling this out at something like King, where they are deep, deep into the data. But I could see this in a lot of studios, a lot of genres, and a lot of sizes.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, it's so interesting because I've been talking, um, like in my free time, to a lot of different studios, gaming studios, even studios where they already have like almost 100 employees. Some of them, they are using data analytics tools, but like I said, they're very limited to only analytics and understanding the dashboard. There is no action and there's no notification where it really brings the data into your real life operation, brings it to humans. And for smaller studios where they have no capacity to have a data team, this is absolutely fantastic tool because you just need one well-educated user acquisition and monetization manager, and you have everything taken care of.
That's important because I think user acquisition and just the use of data can be terrifying for smaller studios because it's not something that they've had any exposure to. And, I've been speaking to developers who are using the number of downloads or, the revenue per user as the only KPIs that they're interested in. So
Mhm.
this whole approach, as you say,
Yeah.
Peggy, absolutely democratizes and open this up. And what a great approach with something as simple as Google Sheets, but using it in a far smarter way,
Hmm.
I think makes a huge amount of difference there, Clary. So thanks again, and I think there's a lot there for listeners to take away, regardless of the studio that they're working with. Um, so let's touch on AI, if
Mhm.
we may, because there's a lot of uncertainty around AI. Is it going to take marketers' jobs? Is it going to fundamentally transform the way that we do things? Are you going to, you know, lose control? I guess you seem
Mhm.
an awful lot more calmer and more rational than many people that we've spoken to. Certainly very positive. So why?
First of all, ever since the AI thing came about in November 2022, I have been really on top of all the news, all the trends, and I've been really willing to educate myself on how to use the AI tools to better, to better my workflow, etc., etc. And just being aware of what's the state of the art in AI right now makes me realize that even though AI helps us in many ways, there are some limitations where AI is not going to replace humans for the moment yet. So, first of all, I would say, what are AI helping us to do? First of all, I think AI helps me absolutely to perfect my no code automation system. Um, Even though it sounds like I'm democratizing everything, but when you're taking care of like 500 campaigns at the same time, and then like you have probably like 15 important KPIs to keep under control all the time, it is not easy. And the Google Sheet function are not what you are used to, like a simple VLOOKUP or not or something like that. No, the functions in my Google Sheets sometimes can take up to 20 rows, and you're like, this is absolutely crazy. And however, AI, especially ChatGPT, helps me so much to build these complex functions and systems in my no code tool. And especially it helps me to debug. Sometimes, when you have a 20-row function, you miss a single details, and you can spend hours and hours trying to figure out what's going wrong. With ChatGPT, it really takes care of it in mere seconds, minutes. And that's the first great thing about it. And of course, AI helps you with like images and stuff that's helpful in creative production, etc., etc. I'm not going to go into too much details. And however, what's the limitation of AI right now? Like, first of all, there is a strong limitation in terms of how can I say, mm, customizability. How, like, it's very hard. For example, if you are trying to make an image um, in accordance to your brand image, to your brand elements, right now it is still extremely difficult for AI to give you consistent results. However, with a great designer, great like creative manager, they can really give you consistent results exactly according to your needs very quickly. We've tested this internally, and we realized that sometimes it's still more efficient to just ask the designer some things than ask AI, for example. And the second thing is like this whole all encompassing logic, because um, that humans have are something that AI is not able to do right now, like this cross-platform analytics and then decision making. AI cannot do that. For example, our no-code system is from Google Sheets to Notion, and there's like some workflows in between. AI can't take that. AI can't analyze things perfectly on other platforms yet, and they can't really make decisions for you about what you want to do and how you want to optimize your day, your workflow, etc., etc. So I think AI for me right now, it is like great assistance. Like if you are willing to learn about it, you would be AI powered superhumans. However, if you're not willing to learn it, it could look extremely scary. But in at the end of the day, it is not replacing the critical thinking, decision making, and creativity that humans still have. I'm not saying that's not going to happen in 20 years or even shorter than that, given how things are moving. But for now, I think it is fine, you know?
We actually got together because we met at Games Forum last year, and you left such an impression. I was like, yes, here we are, nearly a half a year later. Well, actually, nearly a year later. And I'm still thinking about what you said because you were talking about how AI, how automation allowed you to wear more hats and take on many, many more challenges. First of all, here we are a year later, and you're talking about how it changes also the job descriptions themselves are different. Do you see that the same way? Do you
Mhm.
feel that same way? Because it may be that in the future a lot of professionals have multiple jobs, but that's also great because then they can contribute at multiple levels, right?
I think that's going to be a trend. You see, I think there in past few years, it's been a crazy few years. There are two major disruptive elements in the job market and how we work. First of all, COVID. Second of all, AI. Both are scary and wonderful in some certain ways. Like I think COVID really made remote jobs democratized, and um, basically right now I'm actually full remote, and that's unthinkable just 2 years ago. And um, um, because people are doing more and more of this kind of a remote job, and also they have more access to such powerful tool as AI. So the whole traditional concept of like going to work and do exactly the same thing from 9 to 5 is probably no longer the case anymore, especially in industries such as gaming, as tech, where we're really leading the change in everything. Um, so I would definitely say in the future, like people would have more opportunity to explore and to learn, like venture into different aspects with the help of AI, and they would probably have more like physical and timeline freedom from remote work, and the both combined definitely makes it so that more and more companies, especially probably smaller, more flexible organizations, would rethink what are the role of each person. And for example, I think my work experience has been a really good example. I've been a UA manager, I've been a monetization manager. Now I'm actually taking up operations since we're venturing into non-gaming apps. I'm taking up like email marketing, social media, and then like community management, all that kind of things. We're experimenting constantly. And AI and remote work makes it more and more possible.
You can also look at different genres because you have sort of a
Hmm.
basis of knowledge that is shared. So you can say, yes, we're in games, but we can look at others because we can apply these models to others. I mean, I want to hear more about that journey as well.
When you say apply those models to others, do you mean like we can try to
Yeah,
use our automation system to help
exactly.
other types of games and studios?
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's like fully customizable. It's not even, how can I say, it's not even a question. Of course, we can use that for other systems as long as it's a gaming and app industry where you need user acquisition campaigns and etc. You can use this system. It's adaptable. It really, like, since it's so custom made, it really just is going to serve you depending no matter what kind of KPIs you want to look out for, and no matter what kind of how can I say, what kind of performance that you're seeking. There's a way to adapt the system to your needs. Basically, essentially, really. what the advantage of the system is three major things, like data analytics, matching actions with analytics, and notification for important details that you are probably going to miss.
I guess your whole approach to AI is just really practical and
Mm.
level headed because so many people look at it as an existential threat, but it's actually quite good at being a dumb co-worker,
Right.
or somebody with deep knowledge of a couple of things, so you
Mhm.
don't have to know everything. It can
Mhm.
help you fill in the blanks. But we want to come back to this whole notion of being able to save 50 hours a week
Mm.
through automation, because as you've just said, you're a one-man band, who's kind of operating there. So what can you give our listeners, in terms of diving into the whole automation side of things? Give us your tips. Let us learn.
Outside of the automation system, of course, that saves me a lot of time. The most important thing is to be really clear on your priorities. So, obviously, for any UA monetization managers, you're probably taking care of 500 campaigns at the same time. I don't know, but that's what I'm doing. And um, you don't have time to take a look at every single campaign. So, definitely go global, then you go game by game. Then you go country by country, OS by OS, country by country, and then you go into details of campaigns, etc., etc. Of course, in the middle, you can analyze networks, analyze this and that. There's so many things to do, but then really keep your daily workflow according to priorities. Like you want the global to be fine, then you want the game to be fine, then you want OS. Like go with this flow, and it's essentially because I've built this system that the reporting is so efficient that essentially it really takes out all of the unnecessary details. Like whenever I go on my system on any given day, I can find out where campaigns need my attention in 2 minutes. Like in 2 minutes, I know exactly, okay, these are the 30, 40 campaigns that I need to go and take care of today and nothing else. And that clarity and that reassurance is essentially what saves me so much time, what saves me so much mental energy to go do other tasks, which is incredibly important because time, everybody have time. We have the same time per day, 24 hours, but your energy and how confident you are in your work changes how much you can get done more than how much time you spend. So I think that's the tip.
That's it.
Hmm.
Prioritization and being confident that you've set up the appropriate alerts to let you focus your time and attention where it will have the most impact, the most effect.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think like in my work I see like sometimes like UA managers they really struggle with that when you have too many things going on. Like really your head is clouded by, oh, here there's fire in room A, there's fire in room B, now the whole apartment is on fire. And that's like essentially how some other UA managers describe their jobs. They're firefighters, they're going everywhere whenever there's something that's needing them. And for me, I don't see my job as firefighting. I see my job as, I don't know, it's like combing your hair. You always start with the roots. And then when you go down, it's all smooth.
Yeah, because you've whatever you can turn into a routine or a process, then also, one, you have a free mind, but two, you can also scale. And what I like about your approach is it's the alert system
Mm,
which is set up, which is saying, okay, this is really where you need to focus. So you're not worrying about it.
yeah,
That's where automation is saying, take my word for it. This is where you need to be looking. So
exactly.
there is a lot there for a lot of different types of studios. But you also mentioned something I think is intriguing is that you're going to be increasingly looking not just at your game, but also beyond and to
Hmm.
gamification and to other genres. What does that look like? Because that's an interesting journey in itself. Maybe there's something there for casual games,
Yeah.
for hybrid casual games to say, I can maybe branch out a little bit in these times rather than focus only on one area.
Yeah, that is actually one interesting and exciting opportunity in my company. Essentially, like our new project is non-gaming, and we're taking all the best practices accumulated in years of like experience in gaming industry there, and try to see if we can disrupt the industry. And the industry that we're choosing is actually sports, where rankings, where competitions, where leaderboard and all that kind of gaming elements would absolutely apply. And that's where we're going. I'm not sure if I can disclose a lot more, but like I would definitely say that whatever we see in gaming, all the best practices and stuff are not really applied currently in the sports industry. A lot of practices are pretty basic for now, and we will see how we can disrupt that.
That's interesting because again, it's one of these areas which everyone just kind of assumes it works, and very few people are starting to really drill down and pay attention to it, and how you
Yeah.
engage between the the sports stars and the fans and the teams. And so yeah, we might have to ask you back to talk about that in the
Yeah.
future. I think, Clary, because
Oh,
that sounds
that
like
would be my pleasure.
it might be well worth our
Yes.
attention. So one of the things that we've discussed, Clary, is this the automation freeing up so much time gives you the opportunity to play and experiment. So what else have you been doing at the studio that's really kind of pushed the boundaries?
What else we are doing? I think we've been trying experimenting a lot with AI on
Hmm.
creative production. So, um, like basically, as you can see, the major AIs out there, like Midjourney, etc., etc. Now Google, I forgot the name,
Gemini.
Gemini,
Gemini.
yeah, all
I've
of that.
been playing with Gemini with Google Sheets, strangely enough, but that's maybe another podcast.
All of these are actually incredible. I wouldn't be surprised that anyone spends so much time playing with it and then like having so much fun with it. However, like really the biggest difficulty that we see everywhere on Twitter, in companies, like in daily life, consistency. Like you want something, AI can give you something incredible one time or sometimes five times out of 10. However, that's not exactly what you want. And when you're a company, you want something exactly according to your brand, according to your game as a gaming company, it is incredibly difficult. And we're realizing that like some of the AI startups out there, they're trying to address that issue. Not always successful, but um, that being said, even though consistency is incredibly difficult right now, like AI, when you ask it to do some simpler tasks, for example, like resizing a creative, like how can I say, editing a creative to make it shorter, uh, not not successful long when you want to make it longer, but when you want to make it shorter and into different small formats, it is really helpful. And we are actually starting to implement that so that we can save our creative managers sometimes. So, like sometimes the previous complaints about the creative managers, they're like, we're creative managers, but no, we're actually translation and resizing managers, to be very fair. With AI, we actually give some of that creativity, some of that room for creativity back to our creative managers, which is quite interesting. Again, not super consistent, so we're experimenting with that. But we definitely see a lot of potential for it to save huge amounts of time later down the line.
So if we look at the blueprint here, it's really saying one,
Mm,
we can embrace no code and have
mhm,
substantial results, because there was always the thought that it
mm,
was something that you could sort of holding things together. It was like duct taping. It was a little bit like duct tape marketing, right? It's
Hmm.
like, oh, I'll do this and it's no code, so I'll slot this in here and I'll just sort of pull it all together. But That's not the case. This is really at the basis of what you're doing. So if we talk about what studios need to be doing, give me some steps
Mm,
in this blueprint. One would obviously be open to no code and figure out how to use it
mhm,
and align that with your
mhm.
flows. But there are some other steps in there. So if someone wanted to go out and at least prepare to build something like what you have, what are those steps? What is that thinking?
I think the first step is definitely understand very well your needs. Like I understand like for different studio for different types of games, their key priorities in performance might be different. Okay, like let's be real, return on investment is always the key thing. That's not going to change. But then what are really the KPIs that gets you the performance that you want? Is it like playtime? Is it retention? Is it like level completion, etc., etc.? Is it like uh, bounce rate, adoption, all of that? Like really determine a few key star KPIs
Hmm.
that you want to understand. Then obviously, moving forward, you really want to hire a really good UA manager, a good data analyst. They don't even need to be a UA manager. They need to understand data and really enjoy speaking with data all the time. So that's the thing. Like determine your objectives, find someone who really can dive deep into data, and then later on, according to your the according to how your team look like, if you have like a competent data analyst, of course go build something with code, go build something that's even more smooth, like
Hmm.
completely automated, instead of using the duct tape system with no code. But however, like really evaluate what's the value in here, because building no code systems can
Mhm.
go extremely quickly, and building a code system, even though it could save so much time down the line, it might takes it might take a lot of time to go through that bug debug phase, and determine what you need, then determine the system that's best suited for your need, and then afterwards just build.
Great.
I think there's a lot to learn in there, Clary, because this whole notion of what I would call rapid prototyping
Mm,
and the no code approach, which lets you, with your UA and your monetization hats on, explore and experiment really quite quickly. And it's quite unusual because so often in the games industry, you see the creativity is confined to the development team, and so few other people within the company get an opportunity to have that playful approach. So it really does start to open up the fact that the old job roles, the old kind of definitions of you do this, you're responsible for making the game, you're responsible for managing and running the
mm,
game, are really starting to converge. Um, and it's really, really interesting to hear that you're adopting a lot of the same principles that development teams might have had in the past, and bringing it to an area that is not traditionally seen as, forgive me,
mhm.
being creative. So it's fantastic to hear. And I think it's really, for me, it's just reinforcing so many of the things we've heard in the past, Peggy, that the one constant in
Yeah.
games is change. And that's only being accelerated with, the adoption of AI and the practical utilization of AI.
I've definitely heard a lot about that, like UA. Being UA is the most boring job out there. But however, if you're adopting a very creative system, like you're a dancer going through a circuit, and it's very interesting all the time. You're like finding little surprises in all the little details. And being creative and customize the system is just the most fun
Mhm.
part.
Well, as we keep saying, Clary, if you can't have fun in games, you're doing it wrong.
Absolutely.
Clary, it has been absolutely fascinating. I think we could go on for a much, much longer, but sadly, we're going to have to bring it to an end. Thank you for sharing. everything that you're up to, all of the insights that you've gained. There's an awful lot in there that I think our listeners are going to be able to take away. And who knows, maybe we can encourage you to come back and write something for the website so we can really start to drill down into some of the topics that we've just scratched the surface with today. But before we go, we have 2 questions that we ask every guest. And it brings it all back to games, because that's why we're all here at the end of the day. So the first one is, what are you playing right now? What's obsessing you? What are you spending a lot of time with? And the second one is, what's your favorite game of all time?
What I'm obsessed with right now, it is a game called Royal Match. I don't know if you've ever seen that. I'm like, I am playing it with like this full intention of like professional curiosity. And I'm like, every step of the way, I'm just like, how they manage to optimize every single workflow so well, you know? A lot of like casual games, like they throwing you into it and doesn't introduce things, and then like sometimes it gets incredibly difficult all of a sudden, and then like sometimes you are drawn by alternative gameplay creatives, and then you realize, okay, the game is not that. I thought this was going to be the case, but after I download the game, I'm like, oh yeah, like they've given you everything they promised in their ads, and I'm like, this is so great. So I spent time playing that.
It's a great example, and you're absolutely right. How do you take a very simple, at heart, basic match 3 game and build something epic out of it? And you're right, because
Yeah.
I see so many of those adverts. I've got a 7-year-old. We play his iPad together, so the Royal Match adverts are very much a part of my life right now. And yeah, we have an expression here in the UK, which is, it does what it says on the tin, which is no surprises, but it's all the stronger for that.
Yeah, so I'm like really so much respect for the team that developed this game. And then like when it comes to my favorite games of all time, I think that's going to be really interesting and really different.
Okay.
Like I have 2. The first one is Breath of the Wild from Nintendo. Zelda Breath of the Wild. It is like open world game where you can do whatever you want. That's my first favorite game, and my second favorite game is da 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 Duolingo. That's not a game, but they are so great. Look, I have my 1,105-day streak on Duolingo. They've done it so well. 1,000 days. I've been doing that for
Wow.
almost 3 years.
So I am excited, Clary, to extract all of that and make certain it ends up on the pocketgamer.biz website as well. Some lessons and some learnings for our audience. It's going to be invaluable. Thanks so much. This show is all about how to do your job better, how to make an amazing game, how to market it, and you have a say. So if you have a story or know someone we need to shine a light on, then we would love to hear from you.
We want to hear from you. We want to reflect the reality of the mobile games market in all its wonderful complexity and strangeness. So if you have any suggestions for us, if you have any feedback for us, you can always get in touch. You can email us at podcast@pocketgamer.biz. You can find us on Twitter @PGBiz, and you can reach out to us through the pocketgamer.biz website. If you're interested in listening to all of our podcasts, you can find them at pocketgamer.biz/podcast, and we would love to hear your thoughts on future shows.
And we've got you covered on all the major platforms, so subscribe to the audio podcast, as Brian said. Look for us on YouTube. If you want to read it, hey, you can do that too, because we have a companion post for you as well on the pocketgamer.biz website.
Tune in again for the next edition of the pocketgamer.biz podcast, and we look forward to speaking to you in the near future.